Hey guys, it's Upa here. So today we have a slightly different video, and we'll be talking about the only useful elite character in the game. So, as I've mentioned in some previous videos, there are some epic characters which are useful in the game. So, as mentioned before, some examples would be Mackin and Liz. However, a majority of the good characters in the game are in fact legendary characters, and this should be no surprise. However, one thing which not many players know, even some older players, is that there is actually one elite character out of all these few, which actually is pretty usable. And of course, as an elite character, it's not gonna be an amazing hero to use, but there are definitely some situations where you may want to consider using it. So that character is Waits. So she looks like a pretty generic character, and she is, but she is decent and usable because of one specific reason, and that is her basic attack. So her basic attack does deep internal injury 2, and as you can see, what it does is it increases the internal injury damage taken by 50%. And this is a debuff which you can put on bosses or any enemies, which isn't very common. So the main sources of that debuff which people use is Shaorin, as you can see, who does need exclusive tree to consistently put this buff onto the bosses. And the second choice usually is Faxian. So Faxian does deep internal injury as well on his special 4. However, those two legendary heroes may not always be readily available for newer players or even some players in the middle game. And so Waits actually is a decent option for situations where you want to have deep internal injury too. And we'll discuss that in a short while. But as an elite, there are some limitations. So as you can see, elite characters can only reach level 60, and you can't ascend them, exclusive them, put blessings or echoes, and so on. So the only thing you can really do is put equipment, and even then you cannot put artifacts on the characters. So of course this can be an issue, but with good gear you can get her to have a decent amount of health and speed and effect hit. So when using her, since you are only going to use her for deep internal injury too, most of the time you just want to build effect hit to make sure that this debuff lands, and also just some HP for survivability and speed. So while her stats may not be high, you would normally be running her with a shielder who will help increase her survivability as well. So of course, as an elite character, her use is going to be very niche, and let's just talk about some of them, of which I believe there are 2. So the first would be planar rifts. So as a newer player, you may experience some bosses where you simply cannot deal enough damage to them, and Waits can be used in the earlier stages, of course not at the level I'm at, but at the earlier stages to help you deal more damage to the boss and kill them before they start dealing more damage to you. Because against these bosses, the longer you take, the more damage they do. And similarly, the second area where you might want to use this is in 7 Sages of Luli. So similarly, for the internal injury boss, you want to just deal as much damage as possible before the boss kills you, and so deep internal injury will help you with that. So yeah, of course, like I said, she's not going to be an amazing, remarkable character. She's just a simple character which not many people know about, that does one thing which is not very common. And if you find yourself in a position where you do need the debuff and don't have better options, she is a temporary option that you can use. And that's a little fun fact which not many players know about in the game. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.